the most anticipated film of the year. Avatar: The Way of Water has pleased fans with the return of old heroes, but it also introduces a lot of new characters that we haven't heard of before. Today we will tell you about who returned and who turned out to be a new actor in the sequel. The aquatic-themed sequel also takes place well over a decade after the events of the original film on the extraterrestrial planet of Pandora. The full cast features a good balance of both new stars and returning favorites, the latter of which is made up of a few names some fans may be surprised to hear are coming back. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like our videos about movies and series. Galaxy Movie. Sam Worthington, Jake Sully. Sam Worthington became a universally recognized star after playing Jake Sully, the main protagonist of the franchise so far. Jake, a disabled Marine, was brought in by the Resources Development Administration because his identical twin brother was killed in a robbery for a few dollars. His brother, Tom, was a part of the Avatar program in Expedition of Pandora, which aimed to integrate humans with the local alien Na'vi population by splicing human DNA with Na'vi DNA. Jake meets scientist Norm Spellman, Joel David Moore, and Dr. Grace Augustine, Sigourney Weaver, who get the inexperienced Marine up to speed before sending him off in his new Avatar body. Jake eventually meets Neytiri, the daughter of the local tribe's chieftain, and convinces the Na'vi to accept him and train him in their ways. Though the malevolent Colonel Quaritch, Stephen Lang, tries to use Jake as a spy, Jake not only falls in love with Neytiri but also the Na'vi people, ultimately choosing to stand up against the greed of the human invaders and defend the planet. Jake succeeded, and he and Neytiri are now raising a family of their own, consisting of their 3 biological children: Nenium, Jamie Flatters, Loe Kay, Britton Dalton, and Tuckery, Trinity Jolie Bliss, as well as their 2 adopted children in the human outcast Spider, Jack Champion, and Grace Augustine's miracle offspring Kiri, also played, oddly enough, by Sigourney Weaver. They've lived a mostly peaceful life throughout the past few years, but when the human threat returns to Pandora, Jake and Neytiri's family will very quickly be put in harm's way. Jake is quite tough on his children, but it all ultimately comes from a place of love, wanting them to become Na'vi that will lead their people to victory against the Sky People. Zoe Saldana, Neytiri. Zoe Saldana is no stranger to the science fiction genre, having starred in both the Star Trek and Guardians of the Galaxy franchises, but her role as Neytiri is without a doubt one of her most sympathetic performances. Neytiri is part of the Omaticaya clan, the daughter of Chief Itukin, Wes Studi, and spiritual leader Moat, CCH Pounder. She is a skilled hunter and cunning warrior, and when she sees Jake Sully lost in the jungle, she is about to eliminate the Sky Person, as her people call them, masquerading as one of her own kind. She's stopped by a seed from the Great Tree, a massively important religious symbol for her tribe, and takes it as a sign from their deity Iwa that this outsider has a role to play in the fate of Pandora. Neytiri convinces her parents that Jake should learn their ways, and she is the one who teaches him how to hunt, how to traverse the land, and how to tame and bond with the greatest beasts on the planet. During all of this, Neytiri also finds herself falling in love with Jake despite her betrothal to another Na'vi warrior, Tsute Laz Alonso. She almost loses faith in Jake when the other humans destroy her home and kill Chief Itukin, but they ultimately reconcile and succeed in pushing the humans out of their home. Like Jake, Neytiri's life has changed quite a bit since then after becoming a mother to 5 children and becoming the leader of her entire tribe. Still, Neytiri is still the badass warrior queen that she's always been. As clearly seen in the film, Neytiri is still more than capable of fighting when the need arises, and there was no bigger need for her than saving her children from being held hostage by some deadly new avatars, one of which is occupied by an old enemy. Sigourney Weaver, Kiri. Believe it or not, Sigourney Weaver returns to the world of Avatar, despite her character definitely dying in the prior film. Dr. Grace Augustine, an expert on all things related to Pandora and the head of the Avatar program, represents the last vestige of peace between humans and Nausicaa before things turn violent. One of her attempts to build relations with native Nausicaa even involved building an educational facility, which is why so many of the Nausicaa are able to speak English. She's reluctant to accept Jake on her team since he knows absolutely nothing about this planet, but his acceptance into the Omaticaya tribe begins a friendship between them. She's one of the few humans to help Jake rebel against the RDA, but when making a daring mistake, Grace is shot by Quaritch. In the last attempt to save her life, Jake brings Grace to the sacred tree of Iwa, where they perform a ritual to try and move Grace's consciousness from her dying human body to her avatar body. The ritual fails, but in her dying breath, Grace says to Jake that she's with Iwa and that the mysterious deity is real. So if Grace died, how is Sigourney Weaver back in Avatar: The Way of Water? Well, somehow, Grace had a child named Kiri, one of Jake and Neytiri's adopted children, and the Nausicaa girl seen on the official poster. Grace's avatar body is still intact in the new film, and Kiri affectionately refers to the now empty avatar as her mother. The birth is nothing short of miraculous, and the film doesn't give a definitive answer as to how her existence is possible, but the prevailing theory is that she is a byproduct of the goddess Iwa after the seemingly failed ritual to revive Grace in the first film, given that Kiri has a unique connection to the wildlife of Pandora. Stephen Lang Miles Quaritch. Yet another character who seemingly died in the previous film yet is returning for the sequel is Stephen Lang as Colonel Miles Quaritch, the main antagonist of the first movie. Quaritch was the head of the entire security division of the RDA operations on Pandora, but he acted more like the leader of a private military force. Quaritch first wanted to use Jake to learn the ins and outs of the Na'vi and their home tree, but his intentions weren't to find a path to peace like Grace and her team were. What Quaritch really wanted was a tactical advantage over the natives, so he could form an attack plan. Destroying their home wasn't enough for the general, and he also decided to bomb the Na'vi retreat and their most sacred location at the Tree of Iwa. What Quaritch didn't anticipate was Jake's change of heart, as he led the Na'vi in an epic battle against Quaritch's forces, resulting in a 2-on-1 confrontation where Jake and Neytiri struck the mad colonel down once and for all. Or so they thought, as Quaritch has returned for the sequel thanks to a DNA backup. Unlike Sigourney Weaver's Kiri, Stephen Lang's character isn't an offspring or relative of Quaritch, but is actually Quaritch himself in a new avatar body. Technically, this is a clone of Quaritch after the Colonel and a select few of his elite soldiers were instructed to have their DNA and memories copied right before the first film's final battle, so this new Quaritch has all the memories of the villain up until that point. Lang will also be rejoined by Matt Gerald, Daredevil, as Corporal Lyle Wainfleet, another villainous character from the last film who certainly died but has been revived as well. If the RDA is capable of reviving their deadliest soldiers, this could lead to an outcome where Quaritch could potentially become an immortal god and would never stop seeking revenge on Jake and his family. Giovanni Ribisi Parker Selfridge. Practically the only major human villain who survived the first film, Giovanni Ribisi returns as Parker Selfridge, the head administrator of the RDA. Quaritch is likely the villain people think of when they think of Avatar's antagonist, but Parker Selfridge is the Colonel's boss and the one who holds all the cards. The RDA is, and as such Selfridge's end goal is to mine unobtainium, an incredibly valuable mineral found only on Pandora. The Omaticaya tribe happens to be living right on one of the biggest repositories of unobtainium on the planet, which is exactly why Selfridge wants them out of their way at any cost. We last saw Selfridge being forced off of the planet, but as those who saw the recent theatrical Avatar re-release may have noticed, Selfridge's last scene was extended slightly for him to tell Jake that this conflict is not over. Selfridge has a smaller cameo role in The Way of Water but is still a malignant presence in the Avatar universe. Joel David Moore Norm Spellman. The last major returning cast member is Joel David Moore as Dr. Norm Spellman, Jake's last remaining human ally. Norm is the polar opposite of Jake in many ways. Where Jake is the dumb, headstrong Marine, Norm is an intelligent, experienced scientist who has dedicated his life to studying the Na'vi. He instantly forms a bond with his mentor, Grace, and sides with her and Jake when the RDA escalates the conflict with the Na'vi and things turn violent. In the final battle, Norm's avatar body is killed, and he wakes up back in his human form, and he's seen at the end of the film alive and well but unable to become a Na'vi again. Many fans have theorized that Spellman may have had a relationship with Grace and could be the father of Kiri, but the true answer is likely far more supernatural in nature. Jamie Flatters Nedium. The oldest of the biological Sully children, Nedium is the next in line to lead the Omaticaya tribe. This gives Nedium the responsibility of being a role model to his siblings and setting an example for what conflicts may come, and he needs to learn the fundamentals of becoming a great leader if he hopes to follow in his parents' footsteps. Being the oldest, Nedium is often expected to be a good example to his siblings and is often scolded by his father when he fails. Britton Dalton Loke. The middle child of the Sully family, Lo'Wake is something of an outcast among his siblings. Lo'Wake is a bit more of the rebellious type, though he finds solace in exploring the lands of Pandora. As seen in the brief sneak peek at the end of the Avatar re-release, Lo'Wake befriends a whale-like creature called a Tulkun, showing that Lo'Wake might get along a bit better with animals than he does with other people. He also forms a deep bond with Cyria of the Metkayina tribe, perhaps even a romantic one. Trinity Jolie Bliss Tukturi Sully. The third and youngest member of the family is Tukturi, who is also the one we know the least about apart from her age. Tuk, being the baby of the group, is always trying to match the skill and ambition of her siblings, despite the dangers of Pandora and the human invaders. Jack championed Miles Spider Socorro. Along with Kiri, Miles Spider Socorro is another one of Jake and Neytiri's adopted children, but Neytiri isn't as much of a supporter of Spider given that he is 100% human. Miles Jr. was abandoned by the human colony and was too young to make the long and physically draining experience of returning to Earth, so Jake and Neytiri accepted him into their familial circle. Being human also means that Spider can't breathe the air on Pandora and requires a rebreather to walk around in unpressurized areas, making his life on Pandora likely even more difficult. Kate Winslet Ronald. Avatar: The Way of Water also introduces a brand new tribe of Nausicaa with the Metkayina clan, who are more than just a separate group of Na'vi natives. Living close to and even on the Pandoran Sea, the Metkayina seemingly have some evolutionary differences from the more landlocked Omaticaya clan, such as lighter blue skin and more fin-like arms and tails to help them traverse the land. The matriarch of this tribe is Ronald, played by a previous James Cameron collaborator, Kate Winslet. Ronald is the husband of Tonowari, Cliff Curtis, and mother to Cyria, Bailey Bass, and Aonon, Philip Jeljo, and appears to be pregnant with a third child as well. Ronald is a remarkably skilled warrior leader for her tribe, and can even be seen preparing for an epic battle despite still carrying a child in her womb. Her fierce loyalty to her family members and a deep desire to protect them from any and all threats, so she's quite a lot like Neytiri in that sense, but she also initially has a difficult time accepting the on-the-run Sully clan into her home. Cliff Curtis Tonowari. It's quite common for people to get James Cameron's Avatar films confused with the unrelated hit Nickelodeon show, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Still, and something of a funny coincidence, Cliff Curtis, who played Fire Lord Ozai in M. Night Shyamalan's 2010 adaptation of The Last Airbender, which is a movie that is clearly unanimously loved by all, will be joining the cast of James Cameron's upcoming film as Tonowari. Tonowari is the chief of the Metkayina clan, serving along with his wife and partner Ronald. This makes Tonowari the father of Cyria and Aonon and the patriarch of the Metkayina people. Chief Tonowari's role predictably provides him full control of the reefs of Pandora, essentially making him the king of the planet's seas. Tonowari also has noticeable face tattoos marking his status as a leader and warrior, and Curtis himself has said that both his character and the Makanan culture are heavily inspired by real-life Maori culture. We hope you enjoyed this video and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Galaxy Movie was with you. Galaxy Movie.